Serious investment in carbon capture must happen. Emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced.
It's just breaking news here every single day. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Mark Carney's public safety minister announcing that they're putting in stricter border security as well as policing, but in that they've tucked in a few things in there that are not so good for Canadians. One of them removes an element of Canadian privacy, which goes back to Confederation. That's 158 years ago, back in 1867 when Canada was created. We also have Andrew Scheer and Mark Carney going toe-to-toe in the House of Commons. Mark Carney clearly putting on a big performative act now, worse than Justin Trudeau. We're seeing really arrogant responses from Tim Hodgson, the energy minister, Gregor Robertson, the housing minister, all very snippy and all very arrogant, but they get absolutely destroyed. Let's jump into this. Got this one from Table Salt. It says major breaking: duties collected by Canadian government surged 144% in March of 2025 due to counter tariffs compared to March 2024, up from 467 million to 1.044 billion. That's with a B. Inflationary tax on Canadians. So looking at this here, custom duties here. Here's the number there, 1.44 billion, a change of 11.7%. I was looking to order something from America and I was like, there's no way. The tariffs, the import duties, it is outrageous. It increases the price by about 45%. What's ironic about this is you can buy something from China though, it gets shipped to you in a week with zero tariffs, zero shipping. Something needs to change here. Why can we not just freely trade with America, but we can with China? Just saying. Next up in this bombshell news, we've got Public Safety Minister here, Gary Andrasandri, giving the police new powers with their new bill. It says police would gain new powers to intercept mail in transit under the bill introduced yesterday by Public Safety Minister Gary Andrasandri. The bill repeals privacy protections at the post office that date from Confederation. Are you concerned at all about civil liberties of Canadians? They want to be able to read our mail without us knowing. This is part of their border security bill. They've tucked some other stuff in there too.
Canadians gave Prime Minister Mark Carney a mandate to ensure the safety and security of Canadians. This was reinforced by His Majesty King Charles III in the speech from the throne last week.
How comfortable are you tabling this bill that gives such sweeping powers all at once to various law enforcement agencies? Are you concerned at all about the civil liberties of Canadians? Are you comfortable with that?
Look, I've worked my entire life in the protection of human rights and civil liberties. That's a marquee part of the work that I've done before politics, in politics. So in order for me to bring forward legislation, it needed to have the safeguards in place. It needed to be charter in line with the values of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
What they're proposing here is not in line with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They just want to have more access to our personal information.
And I fundamentally believe that we have strike the balance, that while expanding powers in certain instances, does have the safeguards and the protections in place to protect individual freedoms and rights.
We don't want your safeguards. Seriously.
In 2009, you helped with the Ocean Lady. In 2010, with the MV Sunseek coming to Canada, you were with the Canadian Tamil Congress, and at that point, you helped provide legal advice and make connections for some of the migrants on that boat. Those boats both came to Canada illegally and were connected to the LTTE, a listed terrorist entity. Are you concerned you may have a credibility problem when it comes to securing the border?
I have a very strong history in supporting and working with asylum seekers and those who
Look at this guy. He's absolutely gobsmacked. He got completely called out to his face. He's an absolute failure in his position. That reporter came locked and loaded. I don't know who asked that question, but wow.
I have come to Canada as refugees. I continue to do that in Parliament as a parliamentarian, as an MP, as a parliamentary secretary. I continuously work with many agencies that
This guy needs to be tossed out of government.
Provide frontline services to refugees. So I do believe I have the credibility to talk about issues at our border, issues of irregular, those who come to Canada by irregular means.
This guy's no credibility. About as credible as Justin Trudeau.
A moment in history right now where we have the opportunity to respond to some of the concerns that exist within Canada.
You guys created these problems. Now you're responding to them. Who voted for these people?
but also with the United States. And those are the steps that we're taking today.
Another thing in this bill is that the bill would outlaw cash transactions greater than $10,000. So as Peter mentions here, it's hidden inside there. Canada's central banker prime minister is going to further centralize banking, offense cash payments, donations, or deposits of $10,000 or more. Every person or entity that is engaged in a business profession or the solicitation of charitable financial donations from the public commits an offense if the person accepts a cash payment, donation, or deposit of $10,000 or more from a single transaction or prescribed series of relation transaction total of $10,000 or more. And coming from the Globe and Mail too, it says right here the bill would outlaw cash transactions greater than $10,000 to prevent money laundering. Banks and credit unions would still be able to take deposits in cash over $10,000. I think Carney is trying to put more constraints and centralize banking. They're going to try to push in a central bank digital currency so they can have full control over us. That way, if anything happens, they can just turn off your money easy peasy. Because right now, blocking bank accounts doesn't prevent someone from still buying stuff with cash. And they don't like that because they don't have control. Next up, we got Mark Carney and Andrew Scheer going toe-to-toe, arguing about Donald Trump's tariffs and how Mark Carney's really doing nothing about them.
Let's be clear, Trump's tariffs on Canada are wrong, unjustified, and attack on our workers and our economy. Now, while other countries have got deals to lower their tariffs, not only has the PM failed to do that, but he's got Canada's tariffs doubled on steel and aluminum. He promised he was the man with the plan. He can't even get a deal. Our workers are terrified about losing their jobs. And he promised that he'd collect $20 billion in retaliatory tariffs, but then secretly drop those tariffs to zero during the campaign. If he's so sure that he's still going to collect $20 billion, why not table a budget and prove it to Canadians?
Mr. Speaker, the American tariffs, the new tariffs on steel and aluminum, are unlawful, unjustified, and illogical. I agree with the member. And that is why, one of the reasons why we have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of U.S. goods. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed.
One way to deal with the Americans is from a position of strength. But now the Prime Minister is saying that he won't even approve a new pipeline unless there is consensus. This is already unraveling. The radical BC Premier says no pipeline through his province. There's not even consensus in the Liberal cabinet, with top ministers committed to killing oil and gas projects. The vast majority of Canadians don't want to give a veto to politicians. They want to be less dependent on the Americans and to earn more powerful paychecks from selling our oil and gas around the world. Will the Prime Minister show some leadership and commit to approving a pipeline today?
What really needs to happen is the people of British Columbia, like myself, should have a referendum vote. So it's not activist David Eby deciding for all of us. We vote if we want to have a pipeline. That is what we should be doing right now, not letting Eby decide for us.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Shawinigan to Saskatoon and the premiers and prime minister that represent them have agreed on the importance of building projects of national interest.
Right.
The consensus that's required includes a consensus with Indigenous peoples, something that the members opposite do not. We will stand with Indigenous Canadians. We will build pipelines, energy infrastructure in the future of this great country.
The Honourable Leader.
They're not going to build anything.
If photo ops and phony rhetoric actually got things done in this country, then Justin Trudeau would still be Prime Minister. But in all seriousness, the Liberals' $500 billion in new spending without a budget will make inflation worse. The PM said that he wants to be judged by prices at the grocery store. So let's look at those prices. The verdict is in. Beef up 34%, apples up 18%, coffee up 9%. Will the Prime Minister listen to Parliament and table a budget that controls spending, lowers taxes, and cuts inflation so Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
We got some other examples too. The food professor posting these ones: top grocery price increases in 2025 in Canada. As he mentioned, 34% on beef and 33% on sirloin. Oranges 26%, apples 18%, white rice 14%, sweet potatoes 12%. The list goes on and on and on. Everything's getting jacked up. I noticed the frozen vegetables went up a full $1. They were $2.50, now they're $3.50. Go back to 2020, they were $1, $1. We're up to $3.50 now. Something has to change here. People keep voting the Liberals. We're getting a continual change, that's for sure. It's the wrong direction.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased for the first first time to hear the members opposite talk about lowering taxes.
That's right.
In front of this House. This House. First time in my...
What is this? The Conservatives have been calling to lower taxes for 10 years now. Just listen to the way he talks here. It's so performative.
Speaker, I'm pleased for the first time to hear the members opposite talk about lowering taxes.
That's right.
In front of this House. This House. First time in my hearing, Mr. Speaker, before the House is a tax cut for 22 million Canadians up to $840. They want their support.
You notice how he smiled when he said that? This is all performative to him. I'm sure Captain Schmuck Justin Trudeau taught him. He's not taking this serious. It doesn't look serious at all anytime he speaks. He's having a chuckle and having a laugh. You got to hear this next back and forth.
Prime Minister said there would only be pipelines if there was consensus. As it turns out, BC's Premier has said no. Several Liberal MPs are opposed, and even within the Prime Minister's own head, there seems to be opposition, because on the one hand, he says, yes, we're going to go ahead and become the energy superpower, and on the other hand, he says, no, oil needs to stay in the ground. The Prime Minister clearly has no plan to get things done, so why is he putting his elbows down and making us beholden to the United States of America?
Here, here.
The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, what we saw on Monday were 13 provinces and territories working together to build the strongest economy in the G7. The premiers and the government are focused on building a strong Canadian economy. What we see from my colleagues across the floor are attempts to divide and to block development. I hope
Block development? You guys put in Bill C-69. You quite literally block development of pipelines. The audacity of these gaslighters is unbelievable. This is gaslighting to the max. I can't believe he just said that.
Conservatives will join with us in building a strong Canada.
They're unbelievable gaslighters.
Type of non-answer that has become accustomed to these Liberals. Grand gestures, meetings, and press conferences will not get things done, even though the Prime Minister seems to believe that's the case. But what would move things forward, of course, is a plan to scrap Bill C-69, the No New Pipelines Act, a plan to scrap Bill C-48, a plan to scrap the job-killing oil and gas cap that exists, the industrial carbon tax. Let's get rid of that as well. Is the Prime Minister simply turning a blind eye to these things, or does he just not know how to get things done?
The Honourable.
If my honourable colleague was listening to what happened in Saskatoon, the premiers and the Prime Minister have a plan to fast-track projects, to get projects done within 2 years, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Why don't you guys get on? Why don't my colleagues get on board?
What are they talking about? The Conservatives have been pushing this for years. They stole their platform, and now they're saying the Conservatives are the ones who don't want to build these projects? The gaslighting again. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, if you watch them on the side of the bench here, Mark Carney and all the guys around him, Guilbeault and etc., they're all having a smirk. They're all having a laugh. They're laughing at Canadians suffering. They don't care. I don't know how this is going to unfold, but it's going to have something to do with Brookfield and those guys making money. Their stock values, stock options, all that stuff going up.
Mr. Speaker, no consensus. That's reality this week on getting Western oil and gas to Tidewater. There is consensus in Newfoundland and Labrador today, where the VOCM poll shows 74% agree that the Liberal oil and gas cap is an investment killer. No pipelines are required to get Newfoundland and Labrador's 2.5 billion barrels of oil to world markets, or its 12.5 trillion cubic feet of gas to Tidewater. It's already there. So will the Prime Minister put his money where his mouth is and get rid of his investment-killing cap and bring prosperity back to the Atlantic Canadian oil and gas patch?
We will build and protect our economy from American tariffs and win the trade war. But to find new markets for Canadian...
This guy's just looking for a canned response on his sheet to read off. This is so weak. Mark Carney rounded up all these snakes, absolute losers, to be on the bench here with him.
Energy emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced. Serious investment in carbon capture.
Did you hear that? Listen to this again.
Find new markets for Canadian energy. Emissions in every barrel of oil must be reduced.
Emissions must be reduced in every barrel of oil, net zero oil. Don't worry, Mark Carney knows some people to help him with this. I'm sure Brookfield Asset Management will be on the job.
Serious investment in carbon capture must happen. We will build the strongest low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy in the G7.
There it is, low carbon. I brought it up a long time ago. The whole thing with Stripe, carbon capture, they developed that whole system, Brookfield being the world leader in it. It's all for stocks, it's all for money. They're taking advantage of Canadians. They're using us as a piggy bank. So we got a back and forth here between Conservative and Gregor Robertson, the housing minister. Listen to this. Gregor Robertson, all these guys, they're gaslighting, they're deflecting. This is like Trudeau's cabinet on steroids.
The minister wants to pretend that all is going well, but the facts from his own department show that first-time home buyers are struggling. 60% have difficulty maintaining their debt payments, Mr. Speaker. But that is not all. Recently, TD Bank has cast doubt on the Liberal promise to build more homes, stating that new home starts are actually going to decline next year, Mr. Speaker. Housing starts go down, the prices go up, and we have yet another failed Liberal promise. So I will ask again, on what date will we see a federal budget that includes a plan for housing so that Canadians can afford a home?
Yeah, certain areas the housing starts are already going down. You've got downtown Toronto where the condos aren't selling, so they're not building them anymore, or they're building them at a much lower rate. Depending on the area, some areas not getting anything new because the prices are too high, there's too much stock. Builders are holding on to too much stock. They can't sell their pre-sales.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, our housing challenges have built up over several decades. Certainly the decade of inaction from the Conservative government.
Decade of inaction from the Conservative government. It's not Justin Trudeau jacking immigration because he owns a real estate development company and wanted to get rich off of that. No, it's not that at all. This guy, he is so useless. He is a pivotal part of this too, being the mayor of Vancouver for 8 years. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look this up. We got real residential property prices in Canada. Here's the great spike of 2022 when Justin Trudeau said, don't worry, interest rates will be low. People FOMO'd into buying and now the price is coming back down, but they're still incredibly high. Well, he just mentioned the last few decades, including the Conservatives. Well, Stephen Harper left power right here, meaning Stephen Harper was in power for this section. And you notice it almost didn't go up at all. Stephen Harper was in power from 2006 to 2015. The prices went from 91 on this index up into 104. So almost nothing. In comparison, Justin Trudeau gets in and it went all the way up to 200. On this chart, it nearly doubled. And after the crash here, coming back down, if you want to call it 156, you can. That's where we're at now. But still, that's a huge jump versus Harper's measly jump here of like 10, 15 points versus 50 to 100, depending where you want to look at this chart. So once again, the gaslighting here, him trying to blame everyone else instead of Justin Trudeau and the Liberals behind him who voted for all of that stuff, who voted for everything that caused these high prices.
We are taking action. This new government of Canada is focused on delivering on housing, up to 500,000 housing starts. That's using every tool in the toolbox, starting with a break on GST, starting with the important moves that we're making to create Build Canada homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The GST cut is a good move. I mean, they stole it from Pierre Poilievre. Aside from that, they're not going to do anything else. The prices are going to go back up, I suspect, after housing starts go down. They keep bringing in more people. The problem is just going to continue. Or at the very least, it'll just flatline where it's at now with very high prices. I don't suspect seeing the prices going much lower than where they are right now. Not unless real change is done in this country.